We are live.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you guys here. This is really exciting. And especially, we just kind of organized this a couple weeks ago. My boss was like, we should do something special for the veterans. And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. She's like, who do you want to invite? And I'm like, I'll think about it and see who can jump on. And I think this is absolutely perfect that I got to have Dr. Ruth Mary Allen and Laura Temin, who's an LMFT, and Carolyn Tucker, who's an LPC. And you guys are just three of my favorite healers because you all have such different backgrounds personally, but then also the modalities that you use professionally. And then just your really close relationship with Eamon Clinics and Eamon University, you all being counselors as well as certified brain health coaches with us, which is super cool. So when we're talking about traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder that aren't really commonly discussed in the military population, and that's actually the most highly credentialed research study that Dr. Amen has actually done, is distinguishing PTSD from traumatic brain injury using SPECT. And it was published in Discover magazine, which is super cool. And as y'all know, as counselors, you guys have the most amazing toolboxes to help with PTSD. But when it comes to traumatic brain injury, that's where the brain health coaching and the brain health protocols come in handy, because you can't therapy someone out of a traumatic brain injury. So it's cool. I was just going to kind of let everyone introduce themselves and discuss some of the common modalities that you like to use. And then definitely just something personal about your mission related to the veteran community. My sister and my uncle are currently enrolled. I have several friends that are enrolled, and on all the different branches. And it's just a really, really important special thing for us to do, is just spreading more of this message to them, since they literally put their life on the line for us, and they come back and they're sick and they're in pain, and sometimes they don't find the best care, and we know that we can help them. So Dr. Ruth, if you wanted to start first and just kind of, you're all over our social media, which is amazing, but just a little bit more about yourself, your background, and then some of your go-to modalities to help with trauma.
Sure, no problem. So I live in the UK. I am a certified havening techniques practitioner. I'm also a reservist, British Army officer, currly serving and supporting our response here in the UK to COVID-19. And from a military perspective, I'm also a trauma risk management coordinator. So I help people who have experienced a trauma get themselves back to or get them redirected really to the appropriate treatment that they need. That's in my military capacity, but in my civilian capacity, as I help people, military personnel, anyone really who needs support, who has suffered from trauma, whether that's diagnosed PTSD or undiagnosed, is quite often the case,
right.
To help themselves unchain themselves from that particular trauma that they've experienced, so that they can feel normal again, whether that's a trauma from a sudden death to a trauma that has been incurred over a long period of time. And I particularly use the modality called havening techniques, which is using the process of havening touch to help people generate delta waves in their brain. And those delta waves then help the individuals release the unhelpful emotions and associate responses related to the trauma.
I love that. And what is havening? And I'll totally do it with you.
So havening is a psychosensory technique where we use the power of our hands to generate, and we can all do this if you want to have a go now. We use the power of our hands to generate delta waves in our brain, and we have this encoded in ourselves from birth, and we can do this in 3 ways on ourselves. And the first way is to sort of stroke our shoulders, and we may typically do this for if you have children, is to give them a nice cuddle, and this is really helpful for people who are struggling with loneliness in this crisis, is to give themselves a hug. So that's stroking down to your elbows and all the way out to your hands. The second one is like washing your hands, but not the 20-second rule, just the palms of your hands. and that generates delta waves in your brain. And the third way, providing you've washed your hands and you're happy to touch your face, is basically washing your face. It's stroking your face in whatever way feels comfortable. You can use the backs of your hands, cross your hands over, whatever way you feel. And all of those techniques, all of those havening touch techniques generate delta waves in your brain. And we use that to help people release trauma.
Thank you so much. I love it. And I've been doing it a lot since we started doing it together after a few weeks ago. We did,
yeah.
And Laura, and she knew that I'd probably say something. I wouldn't even be doing this video right now if it wasn't for her. She helped me with just a few hypnotherapy sessions, not just public speaking in general, but just in general confidence. And it's just absolutely amazing that she did that for me. And I think it was only 3 or 4 sessions. And I went from, you know, speaking my voice to like speaking my voice very loud to willing to go on a Zoom call, not just with my colleagues, but in front of a bunch of people live. So thank you so much. And I hadn't ever done hypnotherapy with anybody else. So I only have to compare to you, who is amazing, and at some point opening your own hypnotherapy training center. So, you know, I'm always going to talk about that. I know that you also do EMDR, CBT, and some other things. So if you wanted to kind of talk about that.
Oh, that was really lovely. Thank you. And but you know me, so I'm Laura Temin, and I'm also in Atlanta with you. I'm at the Amen Clinic, and I'm also in my own practice in Roswell. And I have to say, my heart, even though I've trained in a lot of different things, you know, you find what your passion is, what speaks to you. Just like you said, Dr. Ruth, the havening and the touch, I could see how that would be very soothing. And soothing really matters when somebody is having a trauma. I mean, everything is elevated, everything is hypervigilant, everything is out of whack. And so the hypnosis is a very gentle, very soothing approach. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to go through the experience. The thing that I hear from people is they get very upset when they tell a story and then they're left in the space of the story. It's like repeating it and then they're stepping into it again.
Right.
And with the hypnotherapy, what we're doing is, it isn't like it is in the movies where we're dangling watches. What it is we have a conversation about, you know, what your goal is. Like you said, for you, it was about feeling more comfortable. Well, I had gunpoint robberies. And so I had different kinds of trauma than the military trauma, but I had gunpoint robberies, okay? And there were more than one. And so whatever it is that happens to you, you're always looking over your shoulder. You're always tense. And in just a couple of hypnotherapy visits with my mentor, well, it soothed the association. And so I have a conversation with a client, they tell me what their goal is, and I gather information about them and then help them to rehearse in their mind and in their experience a completely different feeling than the one that they have. And that's what I do with the hypnotherapy. So, and I also want to just say, you know, yesterday I spoke with my nephew, who is a captain. He just left the military, just left it. And he was a captain in the military, and he was in Afghanistan. And so you want to talk about trauma. I mean, he and I spent 45 minutes yesterday talking about exactly what they face when they're in those situations. So he had a soldier who committed suicide. And listen, I don't need to tell you guys, we've all had clients who deal with suicide, but the different modalities that he used, not with his aunt who he adores, but with somebody else, thankfully somebody that he was in New York, and there are techniques. One of the things that he spoke about, which I'm sure we all use, is breathing techniques. Mm-hmm. That was very helpful to him. But I will tell him, Ruth, about the havening. And
I mean, the one thing that's very common with havening, that based on hypnotherapy, is you don't actually have to say anything about your experience to benefit from the event. So a lot of my clients can't talk about it because the trauma is so great, it's too difficult to say anything. And that's the beauty of havening, is the power to same with EMDR and other modalities, is that you don't actually have to talk about your experience to feel the benefit. And that's really powerful for people who have had such extreme trauma. So that's what I really love, that very aspect about it. Yeah.
Yay, thank you so much, Laura. And Carolyn Tucker, if you wanted to share a little bit about you and your modalities. And we've known each other for a long time, and there's a lot of patients that we share, and even some of my, private coaching clients that I referred to you that were stuck, I mean, within weeks are already feeling unstuck. So whatever you're doing is basically magic if you want to share.
I have to tell you, you loosen the lid, right? All I had to do was stand them up. So it is always a joy sharing clients with you and with the Amen clinics. I have to tell you, the Amen clinics protocols, supplement protocols, lifestyle changes pushed my practice to the next level in how I was able to assist my clients. I treat trauma and anxiety. Those are my my kind of specialty, I guess. And I love what we're all saying about vicarious trauma, right? If we have a client and we're forcing them to repeat the trauma story over and over, it re-traumatizes them and traumatizes us.
Right.
So Dr. Ruth, I will tell you, I saw you with Fallon the other day, and have been practicing havening ever since and loving it. What the thing that I love about it is that it's grounding. And that's one of the first things that I do with the client, is help them get into their body and get grounded. And I do some vagal breathing with them in order to relax the vagus nerve. So we do like some breathe into the count of 4 and out to the count of 8. And after about 10 of those breaths, you're already feeling differently in your body. For me, coming out of school and we're learning CBT and we're going to change these thoughts. And for me, like, how do you even get to changing your thoughts when your body's screaming fire, fire, right? So getting them grounded, getting them in the present moment, sometimes that's all it takes, is saying, okay, sit here with me right now, feel your body, feel your feet on the floor, and be really right here. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong in this moment? No. Okay. And then the next moment, there's nothing wrong there either. Right. And so, a combination of mindfulness, and then I use a technique frequently called the 3 principles. And the 3 principles look at mind, thought, and consciousness. And the part that I work a lot with is training people on the fact that we are not our thoughts, right? And we know this because we can observe ourselves thinking, okay? And so we can choose which thoughts to interact with. Since we're constantly in a process of feeling what we think, then it's really important to exercise the muscle of saying, oh, that's a stressful thought. No, not going to engage with that one. And Fallon, I think I lost a child 7 years ago, and had this intrusive thought about his death. And I thought, oh, this is going to be something that I'll have to live with forever. It's just one of those things that happens to people who lose a kid. I came across this technique of not interacting with the thought, and I committed myself to it for 2 weeks because, it was really painful. And at the end of 2 weeks, I had flexed this muscle so much that I never had the intrusive thought again. So the combination of empowering people to know that this is not you. This happens just like rain or pollen, right? Unless you actually get in and crank it up and drive it, these just happen. And a lot of these are driven by the amygdala, which is designed to see everything that could go wrong, all of the things that could be a threat to you. So, really easy, simple techniques, but they're very powerful. If this sinks in, and if people get in the present moment, they're able to sidestep the repetitive experiences of the trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah, you did such a great job explaining that. So I wanted to back up a little bit and just hear from each of you, when you think of PTSD, there's probably some people listening right now that are like, I don't have PTSD. I don't even know what that is. Just some of the common symptoms that you have seen. For me, I think more of, being hypervigilant, maybe being more emotionally distant or detached, especially if you are coming back from combat, being prone to anger outbursts, or kind of like the symptoms that we screen for. What are some ones that you have seen that maybe some people would be surprised by or wouldn't really realize is PTSD because they think it's kind of normal?
For me, I think it's people who refuse to acknowledge it and kind of shut themselves down from the fact that they've been traumatized in the first place. And they become very, very distant from the experience, to the point that they don't want to talk about it, and that's completely understandable. But they try to dissociate themselves from it. And that then doesn't actually work because it's still embedded in their memory, and all of the associated responses that get encoded at the time of the trauma are still there. So I think that's one of the ones that I see is people, sort of arguing with themselves, I shouldn't be feeling this way, is quite common. Why am I behaving like I'm behaving? It shouldn't be happening to me. I'm, this sort of denial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when we're dealing with people that are heroes and they're going to the other sides of the country to fight for us in whatever fashion that looks like. I think we sometimes don't realize what that does to the human brain, the human psyche, our level of consciousness. What about you, Laura? Because I know you've seen some very traumatized patients.
So I want to talk on 2 levels about this. I mean, not even levels, but areas. So first, because I want to honor our forces and our veterans and all those people. And I want to tell you what my nephew said to me. And what he said was, when you're in the military and you're doing what you need to do, and you're busy and you are fully engaged, you don't even know that you have PTSD. You don't even know it. And all you know is that you're getting everything done, and you have to keep your mind busy because you have to get things done. There's no room to think on yourself. And he said it wasn't until, things were slowing down that he started to notice that there were thoughts that would come. And then, like I think you discussed, Ruth, that they minimize them. And people minimize thoughts because they don't know. And so he said, especially in the military, that you compare yourself to someone else. Like, so I had this experience, but my friend, he has it even worse than I do. And so I have nothing on that, and I shouldn't be so selfish. And so it's that kind of thinking, because you're thinking about the big picture, not like it is back home where I'm thinking about me and my feelings, but he's in charge of whole troops of people and all their lives. And so you're trained to think that way. And so on that level, in terms of our military and the people who fight for us and they deal with all of that, I think they just don't realize, because what happens, it's just like it is here. When you come home, or when you live at home and you haven't been in the military, but you've been in life traumas, when you close your eyes to go to sleep, that's when I hear people say, my mind is busy, I can't turn my mind off, I worry. And to me, that's an indication. There's stuff that we push down, we keep ourselves busy all day, and then at night, when everything's slowing and we're not doing, things rise up and they come into our mind, and then we start to worry. So I think that's one sign. And another sign, when I look back in my own life, and Carolyn, it may be the same experience for you with what happened to you, but memory, it's like I can't remember anything. I remember not remembering where I was going. I had gone to the dentist, and the dentist, I knew exactly where the dentist was. I'd gone to that dentist for 5 years, and now I'm driving on the road and I can't remember where am I going. I know I'm going to the dentist, but I can't remember where my dentist is. I can't remember if I closed my door, if I locked my house, if I took my keys. And I think that's chronic stress and trauma related. So those are the symptoms that come to my mind on both paths.
I love you sharing that about memory, because I think it's very easy to say I'm having memory loss, and there isn't really a stigma around that. There isn't even a stigma around dementia or Alzheimer's, but we know, based on SPECT and Dr. Amen's Bright Minds Mnemonic, there's a lot of reasons why you can be experiencing memory problems or might be worried about going down that road later in life. And number one, in Bright Minds, B is for blood flow. Blood flow is the number one predictor of Alzheimer's disease. And then if you have a brain injury, which it could just be close to a blast, your brain is very soft, it's floating around, and a blast is going to cause, kind of a ruckus in your brain, let alone if you've had multiple, let alone if you've crashed your Humvee, let alone all of those other things. And so that's where I love that we can figure out like what is emotional trauma and what is physical brain trauma. How can we tackle it all together?
And you make such a good point, because the thing that we're all joined here in is Dr. Amen. And he has shed so much light on everything that happens behind the scenes. I mean, I can't tell you, I know I sound like a broken record, but I am so grateful for him, because he's been such a pioneer. When I sit with clients, like couples, especially, because when couples, they don't come in for counseling unless they're in crisis. And when they're in crisis, there is trauma. And because I understand more about the brain, thanks to Dr. Amen, I'm able to see exactly what he's talking about, which parts of the brain's activated with which person, and the symptoms that go with certain brain functions. And we really we owe a debt of gratitude to our soldiers, and also on another front to Dr. Amen.
I know. And it's so interesting if people haven't heard his original story, but he was enlisted in the Army and doing his residency. And then he just kind of stumbled upon a SPECT machine, and he was like, what is that for? And they're like, that's for research. He's like, well, what does it do? And they're like, it measures blood flow and brain activity to the brain. And he's like, well, why wouldn't we use that to help people? And then the rest is history. What is some of your insight, Carolyn, about trauma, and whenever you do kind of see how that might be related to cognitive decline as kind of the presenting issue?
So some of the symptoms that I see a lot are dissociation, like Dr. Ruth mentioned. I have a lot of clients come in misdiagnosed, right? They come in as, being medicated for bipolar or being medicated for ADD or ADHD. And, we do a few rounds of EMDR and, your bipolar goes away. So, it's constantly, you're ruling it out as, could this be? And I'll frequently take a swipe at it with EMDR just to see if I can lower their SEDS, lower their, their measurement of their own distress. I see people playing video games or falling down the Netflix hole or shopping, anything that they can do to kind of check out, like out of their body. And then substance use, right? Self-medicating with substances. So,
and that's really common from a military, and and we're talking here also about first responders perspective as well, as that desire to calm yourself down, isn't it, to reduce the level of activity you've got in your brain. Typically from a military, it's with alcohol, and that can be as well. First responders, when you get home, you're really tired, you just want a glass of wine or a beer or whatever to try and calm the level of anxiety that you may have down from your day.
And the thing that I love about the Amen Clinic protocols is, the thing that the alcohol is doing for you is it's quietening that basal ganglia. And, we have supplements that do that. So you don't have to risk a DUI or,
a marriage.
Right. Going down whatever path.
All of those things.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that being able to spot it is so important, because I've talked to people who've been in therapy for years and nobody ever mentioned trauma. It is a differential diagnosis. We got to look.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think as well, for all of us, it's making it making the help that's available to people much more accessible. And I think that's a real struggle too, is not being wedded to the sort of traditional approaches to treatment, and then people get stuck on the waiting list and waiting list and waiting list, and they're not treated for months and months and months, because they don't have the capacity or they don't have the outreach to different modalities that are available to people that can be much more instant. People I've treated have had multiple treatments for PTSD for years to no effect, and in one havening session we've been able to completely remove the flashbacks that they've been having, and they've been gone for 3 months, one session. So imagine the savings just from a waitlist perspective, the savings from a cost perspective on the people that pay, healthcare and so on. If we can help people quicker, then the knock-on effect is phenomenal downstream, and people can get their lives back quicker as well. And I think that's really important too, is getting the help to them early and not them waiting, but reaching out for help when they know that it's needed, or their loved ones, encouraging them to reach out, because the longer you wait, the more vulnerable your brain becomes, the more vulnerable it becomes future trauma down the road. So it's really important that you treat it sooner rather than later for whatever modality you choose.
Absolutely. And I think that, definitely the sooner the better. And then just having as much information as possible. You know, Dr. Amy makes a joke that like MD sometimes for some people stands for minor deity, and they think that they know absolutely everything, when just get the information that we have. I mean, amenclinics.com has information, brainmd.com has information. Quiet Explosions documentary is coming out, which is wonderful, and I think everyone needs to watch it. But that's actually one of the cool things that we're doing. We're offering this special for anyone over the next 11 days. I love that today's 11/11. It's going to last until 11 days, where we're going to do our Brain Warriors Way course and then 3 supplements, which I'll describe in a minute. And it's $199, where normally it's $1,921, which is kind of crazy and super cool. And you can just go to brainmd.com/veterans, and it's our veteran special bundle. And it has our multivitamin, which is Neurovite Plus, and then our omega-3, which everyone needs to make sure that their omegas are in check. Your brain is fat and water. The 2 most important thing for it to have are healthy fats and water. I think it's like 80 or 90% of Americans have insufficient omega-3 levels. Tangent, that's me. The next supplement is everyday stress relief, which does help basal ganglia, which is very important. It's very rare I've seen someone that doesn't have an overactive basal ganglia, especially now with COVID anxiety, post-election anxiety. But the thing I love about everyday stress relief too is also helps with temporal lobe function. And with military population specifically, it's, you know, they do have a lot of undiagnosed TBIs. And that is always something that we find as a temporal lobe abnormality. So it's not a prescription. It's not saying that you absolutely have that problem, but we are offering this bundle. And if for some reason it isn't helpful, you can just return it. But it is something really special that we're doing, and I'm really, really excited about. So hopefully more people can get some help and take advantage of the natural holistic things that we know heal the brain at a cellular level, heal the body at a cellular level. A multivitamin has vitamin D in it, which is a neurohormone, which is extremely important. 90% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. And even if you had good vitamin D and you have a concussion, your vitamin D immediately goes down, your vitamin C goes down. And those are things you have to replenish. So just some cool stuff that we're offering. And I really, really do hope that it's helpful. We do have brain health assessments. You can do virtual appointments with our doctors if you're not near a clinic. And I mean, that's what we're here for. So whatever we can do, you know, Ruth, Laura, Carolyn, just please let us know. So if you guys wanted to kind of give some tips on how to find you and the best ways to reach you.
Who do you want to go first?
Let's do Carolyn first.
Shall I go first? So you can reach me at www.ruthmaryallen.com. And if you want to find out about Havenings, then just click on the link, and all military personnel and responders will get the Amen Clinic discount that you offer for any of the courses, 20% off for everything. So that's how you can find me, or email support@ruthmaryallen.com if you want to find out more. And I would say just supporting the nutraceuticals you just talked about. I take all 3 of those, and I think they're fantastic, particularly omega-3. The importance of taking the right level of omega-3 for it to make any difference is really key. And I encourage a lot my clients who aren't taking the right level of omega-3 to make sure they do. And BrainMD as a supplement is great because you don't get the gastric reflux that you can get with other ones. So, and
it's tasteless. Like I've kind of fish oil because I had never taken anything before I took this, and it's honestly one of the easiest capsules that we offer to swallow. And if you're not sure about your omega-3, you can just ask your doctor to test it. You can ask them to test your vitamin D. Those are 2 really important things. And you can also get your own kit by just going to Omega Quant, and you just do a little finger prick of your blood, mail it out, and they'll actually tell you what your omegas are. That's super important to know. But yay, I'm excited. And then Laura, how can we find you?
Well, first I just have to say that our very own Dr. Ali, I remember one time talking to him about a client who had marijuana concern, and you know, and then I don't remember if it was Ruth or Carolyn who mentioned, I think it was Carolyn who mentioned, you know, substance use is higher when people have trauma. And you know, after the trauma, people forget about the trauma and then they just, you know, their life goes on. And so there are a lot of people who have substance abuse problems. And I remember having this conversation with Dr. Ali where he said, Laura, and I think it was the everyday stress relief because I had recommended to a shared client about using that. But just, I mean, it is really amazing if you could have a supplement that would take the place of something that damages your brain. But both, I mean, I get when a person smokes marijuana, it's for soothing. They're stressed, they need to quiet their mind. And so I understand the purpose, but wow, how great is it that we don't have to use a substance of that nature and we could take a supplement. So I wanted to mention that because I know there are a lot of people, like we've all said, who are drinking or using marijuana or whatever it is that they're using. It could be food, it could be sugar, it could be shopping, it could be gambling, it could be sex, it could be anything to calm ourselves, to distract ourselves. So that said, if you want to reach me, I'd love to help you. And my website is achieve-able.com. So it's ACHIEVE, achieve, and then the hyphen able, ABLE.com. And everything's achievable. You can text me. Well, actually, can't text me there. You can email me, and I offer a free 20-minute phone visit so we could talk about whether I could be of service to you. And if not, well, there are so many wonderful experts right here who can. Thank you.
Yay. And Miss Carolyn, last but never least, how can we find you and your amazing team?
You can find me at www.carolyntuckertherapist.com and also at tuckerandassociatescoaching.com. I do coaching for adolescents and young adults. And so that's a separate thing. And then carolyntuckertherapist.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Any closing remarks? You guys have been so wonderful. This was super amazing. I love seeing your three faces on my screen. This is just like such a treat. Is there anything else you wanted to say besides? I just wanted to thank everybody for watching, and hopefully we can reach more people with this information and just empowering them that there are more answers. There are people there that can help. There are natural things that can be helpful.
I want to say that where we all have trauma, and some traumas are really huge traumas, and some traumas are, we think, smaller, but you know, we've all been there. That's all. And so if you've been there, you know what it feels like. And as a therapist, you know, we do this because we really care. So if we can help out, I know all of us are there to help out.
Absolutely. What were you going to say, Carolyn?
I just want to encourage people not to give up. Don't give up on your loved ones. Don't give up on yourself. Treating trauma is not difficult. You just have to do it effectively. So talk to people, find out what, who they've seen, or, here are people who know how to do it. But we only get minutes in life. And I hate to see anybody waste a single minute suffering when they don't have to. So don't give up. That's my thing.
I love that. It's so sweet.
Thank you.
And just for me, I just say to echo Daniel Amen's words, is you're not stuck with the brain you have, and we can all help you make it better.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think Carolyn mentioned that she does brain spotting, but that was a modality that was very helpful to me And I only did 5 sessions, and my PTSD pattern on my specs completely went away.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I know, it's pretty amazing because I really didn't want to talk about those 5 traumas. So it's really amazing what we can do with the right person and the right modality. So thank you all so, so much. And I love you all, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you so much, Val.